Imagine waking up in an apartment you spent your life savings to buy, only to hear the walls cracking. This isn't a nightmare. It's the reality unfolding across China. Beneath the glittering facade of its megacities, a time bomb is ticking. Tofu buildings, shoddily constructed structures built in haste to satisfy political ambitions and corporate greed. Once celebrated as symbols of China's unstoppable rise, these concrete towers are now crumbling, exposing the dark secrets of a system desperate to maintain its image of an economic miracle. From hairline cracks to catastrophic collapses, these are the first signs of a full-blown crisis that the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, is scrambling to cover up. But the truth is leaking out, and it's shaking the very foundations of society. Tofu buildings, symbols of collapse. One day, you notice a small crack in the wall. The next, your ceiling crashes onto your dining table. Across China, horrifying stories are spreading. Newly built towers splitting open, balconies collapsing, staircases snapping like twigs. These aren't random accidents. They're the result of a construction industry corrupted by speed, greed, and political ambition. In the late 2000s, urban development became a numbers game, with local officials racing to meet quotas for career advancement, while real estate giants like Evergrande and Country Garden chased massive profits. Contracts went to the cheapest bidders, oversight vanished, and quality was the first casualty. Diluted cement, steel rods swapped for scrap metal, corners cut at every turn. The term tofu buildings, originally coined for poorly built schools that collapsed in the 2008 Sichuan earthquake, now haunts cities nationwide. Fear is no longer confined to rural areas. It has seeped into high-rises, shopping malls, and even government offices. On social media, videos go viral. A mother screams as ceiling plaster falls inches from her child. These buildings aren't 30 years old. Some are barely 2, constructed by state-backed developers. The government promises crackdowns, but insiders reveal fake inspections, rigged contracts, and hush money. In Zhenghe, a luxury complex's lobby ceiling caved in during light rain. In Chengdu, a torrent of water burst from a high-rise ceiling, turning staircases into waterfalls. In Tianjin, balconies collapsed like dominoes. A leaked government report from Jiangsu revealed over 300 residential buildings deemed unsafe, more than half built after 2017, with documents exposing tampered inspections and swapped materials. The walls are falling, and with them, the illusion of safety. China's housing boom, once hailed as a miracle, has become a nightmare for millions. The question echoing online is stark. Which building will collapse next? The CCP tries to suppress the truth by censoring videos and threatening whistleblowers, but the cracks can't be hidden forever. This isn't just a technical issue. It's a symptom of a system where the interests of party elites trump the lives of ordinary citizens. The panic of the middle class. China's middle class, the backbone of the Chinese dream, is in a state of panic. They bought homes with crushing mortgages only to fear for their lives. Thousands of families refuse to move into newly built apartments, recognizing them as death traps disguised as homes. Demands for independent safety inspections are ignored, their money is gone, and the legal system offers no hope. Developers blame subcontractors, subcontractors point to suppliers, and officials stay silent to avoid mass outrage. In Guangzhou, a high-rise visibly leans northward, yet authorities only advise avoiding balconies during storms. In Nanjing, a leaked video revealed walls stuffed with trash instead of insulation. Coffins awaiting an earthquake, engineers warn. Building management companies, often controlled by developers, squash dissent through social media censorship, lawsuit threats, and even police intimidation. The crisis spreads from the ruins of giants like Evergrande and Country Garden. Many buildings crumble within 1 to 3 years, with floors shifting underfoot. Online, anonymous voices plead, "Don't move in, you might not survive." The phrase tofu buildings is no longer a metaphor, it's a terrifying reality. As typhoons grow fiercer and temperatures rise, engineers warn that many towers won't survive the summer. This isn't just about real estate. It's a crisis of trust, fear, and a nation's credibility collapsing floor by floor. The harsh truth behind the glittering skyline. Beneath China's dazzling skylines lies a brutal truth. Many homes were never built to last. Corruption, fake materials, and zero accountability have created a nationwide trap. At the heart of the disaster is a land-driven development machine. Local governments rely on land sales to fund everything from schools to subways, forging an unholy alliance with officials chasing economic targets and developers chasing profits. Quantity trumps quality, speed trumps safety. Inspections are often mere paperwork, conducted by firms tied to the developers themselves. Conflicts of interest are the rule, not the exception. Whistleblowers from Hunan expose bribes disguised as inspection fees. A former engineer confessed that unsafe buildings were approved with a stamp and a handshake. Once approved, problems become the homeowner's burden. Diluted cement, hollow bricks, scrap metal for steel, walls stuffed with shredded newspaper. A 2024 investigation uncovered entire apartment walls filled with cardboard. The construction chain is deliberately messy. 20 contractors might touch a single building, but none take responsibility when things go wrong. The result is a slow-motion failure. Waterproofing fails, floors warp, walls crack, and buildings breathe as they lose stability. Since the 2023 real estate crash, cash-strapped developers have rushed to finish buildings just enough to avoid penalties, delivering properties with no plumbing, broken foundations, and bare concrete floors. Legally, once the outer walls are up, the project is delivered, even if it's uninhabitable. Regulatory watchdogs are paralyzed, gutted, merged, or defunded in the name of cost-cutting. A leaked 2025 Housing Ministry report shows fewer than 2% of structural complaints led to action. Most were ignored. Families are trapped. They can't sell as property values plummet, can't leave due to 30-year loans, and can't sue because courts won't take structural defect cases unless someone dies. State-linked developers are legally untouchable. The CCP suppresses the truth through information control, but leaks reveal a national trauma. Homes, representing entire life savings, have become sources of fear. From construction flaws to a national wound. What began as a construction problem has become a national wound. For millions, an apartment isn't just shelter, it's their entire wealth. Life savings traded for leaking, creaking, crumbling walls. In Hainan, residents of Jinu Garden hear walls cracking at night. Ceiling plaster falls in dry weather. One mother hasn't slept through the night, checking on her children hourly, fearing a collapse. Mental health data shows a sharp rise in stress and depression. A 2025 report estimates over a third of affected homeowners suffer chronic anxiety. They're trapped in buildings that feel like ticking bombs, with no one listening. In Guangzhou, a father of two told reporters, "I have 18 years left on my mortgage, but my home is falling apart. Every new crack reminds me my future is vanishing. Anger is erupting. Protests from Liaoning to Sichuan, with signs reading, 'We bought homes, not coffins.' Videos show families camping outside housing offices, begging for help, only to face police warnings, arrests, and court delays. The system tells them to follow rules that never protected them. Communities, once tight-knit, have become battlegrounds of blame, silence, and fear. Neighbors turn on each other. In Chongqing, residents refuse to fix their crumbling building, believing it's the government's job, letting cracks grow for a year. Health hazards are everywhere. Mold creeps through cracked walls, sewage pools in basements, ceilings collapse without warning. In Jiangsu, a 6-year-old boy was crushed to death in May 2025 when a bedroom ceiling fell in a new complex. The fallout goes beyond broken walls. Real estate, the backbone of the middle-class dream, is now a nightmare. With over 80% of household wealth tied to homes, the collapse of trust sends shockwaves through society. Young people delay marriage, parents can't sell to retire, and people abandon cities they worked lifetimes to reach. This isn't just a housing crisis. It's a breach of the social contract. When citizens buy state-endorsed homes and live in fear, what does that say about the system? The government stays silent, developers go bankrupt, whistleblowers are threatened. Beyond the concrete, a deeper collapse is underway, the collapse of trust. Economic crisis, factory closures, and mass unemployment. The crisis doesn't stop at concrete, it's spreading to the economy, with the CCP hiding its true scale. From September 1st, the Supreme Court ruled all agreements bypassing social insurance, BHXH invalid, applying to all businesses, from individual vendors to small traders. This was a bombshell. Factories are shutting down en masse. In Dongguan, Tianhong Technology closed overnight. A factory with 98% temporary workers collapsed. Veteran workers stood dazed at the gates, unsure how to survive. Large and small factories are closing, triggering widespread unemployment. A real-life dialogue. An employee with a 3 to 4 million Vietnamese dong salary asked about BHXH deductions, only to learn it would come from their pay, leading to resignations. Hiring is tough with post-deduction salaries too low. In Hangzhou, shops close. Owners turn to widow shops, barely operating. Jobs are scarce. A company once with 300 employees now has a handful. The auto industry is in shambles. Summer jobs demand 7 days of unpaid trial work. In Dongguan, factories owe April-May wages, ignoring calls and protests. "Where's your conscience? Where's justice?" a worker cried. They hope for official intervention, but lawsuits are futile as assets are already transferred. Minimum wages are dismal. Guangdong at 2,500 CNY, Shenzhen 2,520 CNY, Shanghai 2,740 CNY, half of Taiwan's 7,000 CNY. Over 10 years, Taiwan's minimum wage rose 42.9%, Shenzhen's only 24%. Crowds fight for low-paying jobs. One person does the work of 3, with companies still cutting corners. Minor illnesses are endured, major ones lead to heaven. Life is a cycle of certificates: birth, ID, vaccines, property, exams, jobs, marriage, divorce, death, each requiring a document. New rental taxes from September 15th add 12% to rent, passed on to tenants, raising costs from 3,000 to 3,500 CNY per month. In Jinan, shops in Hanyujinu and Summer Plaza have shuttered en masse. The CCP's hidden secrets, from economy to politics. Behind it all, the CCP conceals truths to preserve power. A full-scale crisis, economic decline, social unrest, political distrust, is heavily censored. Leaked reports and whistleblowers face threats. Protests are suppressed. The system prioritizes growth metrics over lives. Corruption festers from construction to social insurance. Citizens are trapped in debt, unemployment, and crumbling homes. Trust is shattered. The government remains silent, but leaks expose a deep wound, from tofu buildings to mass layoffs, migration, and mental health crises. When home becomes a source of fear, how long can a nation endure? The CCP hides the truth, but it's breaking through, threatening the system's foundation. Millions ask, who will fill the void? The answer lies behind the curtain of secrets, and it could change everything.
Tofu-Dreg buildings exposed. China's homes collapse one by one after floods. When the storm came, it didn't just flood streets, it exposed the rotten bones of a lie. Skyscrapers twisted like paper. Cracks split walls wide open. Entire buildings slumped, as if exhausted by years of pretending to be strong. City by city, province by province, the mask came off. Beneath China's glittering skyline lurked a foundation of fraud, built with fake steel, sand-stuffed concrete, and greed. For over a decade, China's real estate boom was praised as a miracle of modernization. Skyscrapers mushroomed overnight. GDP surged. New cities rose from farmland in a blink. But what looked like progress was often just propaganda. Beneath the glossy exterior was a ruthless system driven by shortcuts, bribes, and backroom deals. Officials hungry for promotions colluded with developers obsessed with speed and profit. Safety codes were ignored. Inspections were faked. Corners were slashed with the precision of a knife. The result? A silent epidemic of what are now known as tofu-dreg buildings, so fragile they collapse like soggy bean curd under pressure. These weren't isolated failures. They were warnings, ignored. In third-tier towns and megacities alike, families moved into apartments that began falling apart from day one. Cracking walls, sagging ceilings, shaking balconies. Complaints were buried. Whistleblowers silenced. The machine kept rolling and people kept paying. Then came 2020 and nature refused to stay silent. This year's floods didn't destroy, they revealed. Buildings didn't fall because of the rain. They fell because they were never meant to last. Because for years, China wasn't just building cities. It was building a fiction. And now that fiction is collapsing. What was once dismissed as bad luck is now undeniable, a nationwide disaster, engineered by decades of corruption and covered up by ambition. The storm didn't just drown homes, it drowned the myth of invincibility. China isn't facing a natural disaster. It's facing a reckoning. Brick by brick, the truth is crashing down. From raindrops to ruins, China's crumbling dream. It began with rain, but what's collapsing now is far more than buildings. It's trust. It's lives. It's an entire system built on lies and shortcuts, now coming undone. Brick by corrupt brick. July 2025. Relentless downpours pound southern and central China, but while the skies opened up, it wasn't nature alone that unleashed disaster. What's flooding the streets now is the truth, a truth long buried beneath layers of propaganda, concrete, and corruption. In Jiangxia, 5 days of nonstop rain cracked open the facade, literally. A 12-story apartment building split in two, one half crumpled like a sheet of paper. Debris rained down, homes vanished, and yet residents were told to be grateful, because no one died. In Hunan, tragedy nearly struck in a classroom. An elementary school roof, barely 8 years old, collapsed as students sat beneath it. Parents had warned for years about mold, leaks, rusting walls. Officials are now admitting what everyone suspected. The foundation was a fraud. In Sichuan, buildings are sweating from within, moisture seeping through walls, tiles cracking and falling, balconies bending like twigs. Engineers are declaring entire blocks uninhabitable. The list of condemned buildings is growing by the day. Social media is erupting. Videos show floors shifting beneath people's feet, stairwells warping, ceilings groaning. TikTok and Weibo are flooded with desperate voices. Censors are scrambling, deleting faster than ever, but they can't erase fear. In Guangdong, one man chained himself to his collapsing home, shouting to the sky, "I spent 20 years earning this house. Now you tell me to leave? Where should I go?" And in poorer towns, no headlines, no inspections, just silence. Officials downplay the chaos as isolated incidents. But everyone knows it's not isolated. It's systemic. State media stays quiet, but panic is bubbling beneath the surface. A leaked internal report from Guangxi warns, over 2,000 buildings constructed between 2011 and 2019 are at high risk of collapse after heavy rain. And that's just one city. Multiply that across the nation, and the scale becomes unimaginable. This isn't just a construction crisis. It's the collapse of a national illusion. For years, families poured their life savings into these homes, told they were investing in the Chinese dream. Instead, they bought death traps. These aren't natural disasters. They're man-made. The rain simply revealed the rot. This isn't about weather, it's about betrayal. Because when walls crack and roofs fall, the damage isn't just physical, it's emotional, it's generational, and it's far from over. Why China's buildings are collapsing. The three rotten pillars behind a national nightmare. Towers are splitting, schools are caving in, families are fleeing their homes in terror. This isn't just a weather crisis, it's the unmasking of a lie, built brick by brick over years. Behind the crumbling walls lie three explosive truths the government doesn't want you to hear. 1. Speed over safety. China's construction boom was a death race. For 2 decades, China treated real estate like a sprint. Build fast, build tall, build cheap. Cities were judged by their skylines, not by the safety of their foundations. Local officials, chasing GDP targets and political promotions, greenlit massive projects overnight. Developers cut corners to stay ahead of deadlines. Cement was watered down. Steel was swapped for scrap. Waterproofing? Optional. From a distance, these cities looked like the future. Up close, they were falling apart before they were even finished. Now, under 2025's brutal monsoon season, these ticking time bombs are going off, one building at a time. 2. The Tofu-Dreg epidemic. Corruption poured into every foundation. Tofu-Dreg construction, once a meme, now a national curse. Behind nearly every collapse is a chain of corruption. Bribes disguised as business deals, contracts handed to cronies, subcontractors of subcontractors gutting quality to maximize margins. The result? Schools that can't survive a rainstorm, hospitals with collapsing ceilings, apartment blocks held together by hope. When disaster strikes, responsibility vanishes. No one's prosecuted, no one's accountable, and the victims? They're stuck paying mortgages on ruins. 3. Truth is outlawed. Censorship is killing accountability. In any functioning country, tragedy leads to inquiry. In China, it leads to cover-ups. When a high-rise partially collapsed in Xi'an, the first reaction wasn't rescue, it was censorship. News crews were blocked. Footage was erased. The narrative was rewritten. Just blame the rain. Inspectors who sound alarms are silenced. Whistleblowers disappear. State media stays mute. The message is clear. Don't ask questions. Don't tell the truth. Just move along. What remains? Ruins, rage, and a broken dream. In Jiangxia, Xi'an, and parts of Sichuan, families are now sleeping in tents, afraid their homes will fall on them. Old couples refuse to step inside their buildings. Parents won't let their kids near the windows. Balconies sway in the wind. Walls ooze water. Ceilings creak and threaten to cave in. Even worse, mortgages don't stop. Families are trapped, still paying for homes they're too afraid to enter. There's no aid, no accountability, just fear. On the outskirts of cities, makeshift camps are growing. But this isn't the aftermath of a natural disaster. This is the fallout of man-made greed, silenced truth, and a government that built prosperity on a foundation of lies. The real collapse has only just begun. This isn't just about concrete and steel. It's about a system that sacrificed safety for spectacle. Now, the very buildings that were meant to symbolize China's rise are becoming tombstones for a broken dream. The storm didn't destroy these homes, corruption did. The collapse you cannot see, China's silent psychological crisis. Buildings are falling, streets are flooded, sirens echo through the night. But behind all the visible case, a quieter collapse is unfolding, one that doesn't make headlines. While concrete structures crumble in the open, trust, hope, and psychological stability are disintegrating in silence. In evacuation centers and cracked apartments, the damage goes far beyond broken bricks. Children wake screaming from nightmares. Parents speak of a fear that clings even after the rain stops. Psychologists report a sharp rise in anxiety, depression, and PTSD-like symptoms. But this isn't just trauma, it's the feeling of betrayal. Mental health workers and underground aid groups say the same thing. People no longer fear nature. They fear the system that failed to protect them. Yet officials deny it. Media ignores it, and silence spreads like mold in soaked walls. That silence doesn't just erase suffering, it isolates it. For decades, China upheld an unspoken deal: obey and be safe, stay silent and be protected. But now that homes are collapsing, bank accounts are freezing, and disasters go unacknowledged, that promise is cracking, just like the buildings. Online, the emotional rupture is plain to see. Even our homes are fake, one user wrote. If the buildings are hollow, maybe the whole system is. Another said, I don't trust anything anymore, not even the ground beneath me. Even the loyal are growing cynical. In disaster zones, the sense of community is eroding. People stop organizing, stop reporting cracks, stop looking out for each other, because they no longer believe anyone will listen or help. What replaces solidarity is survivalism, suspicion, isolation. And when people stop asking for help, future disasters won't just be worse. They'll arrive unnoticed until it's far too late. The shattered windows and fallen ceilings are only the surface. Beneath them lies something more dangerous: the slow collapse of belief. Belief in safety, belief in justice, belief in the future. China may still be building upward, but inward, everything is falling apart. I sat and waited for 4 whole hours, and not a single order came in. It only drizzled a little this morning, just a few drops of rain, but my goodness, not even a single person walked into the shop. Even if I had sold just a lollipop or a pack of instant noodles, that would have been something. But nope, sales were literally zero. Running a business like this is enough to drive anyone crazy. It's not even the weekend today, just a regular Thursday. So how can business be this dead? I really don't get it. Guys, how much did you manage to sell this morning? As for me, I made nothing at all. I'm completely broke and seriously depressed. A customer told me that this month has been the hardest time in their life. Not just slow sales, but no sales at all. China's economy is going through a prolonged depression, and even the biggest economic center, Shanghai, is no exception. People can't make money anymore. Basic survival has become an issue. Many netizens have posted videos showing how a huge number of stores have closed down in areas like Nanjing Road Pedestrian Street, Hongqiao Station, and Shanghai Railway Station. It's heartbreaking to see. There was an online article titled, "Only after arriving at Hongqiao Station did I realize Shanghai is really out of money." It described how shops along the station corridors are all shut down or under renovation, with dim lighting and none of the past liveliness. Yet the main hall was packed with people and unbearably hot. Hongqiao has tightened its belt to the point of not even running the air conditioning at full capacity. The bleakness of it all really tugs at your heart. Could you give me a meal box? For free, right? Yes, thank you. You only want rice? Yeah, just rice. Thank you. Here's your food. Thank you. Should I buy you a pair of shoes? No need. You don't want the shoes either. If you do this, I won't dare come ask for food from your shop again. It's okay. I'll buy you a pair of shoes. No, really, I don't need it. You really don't? Yes, thank you. Don't mention it. A video online showed a man walking into a fast food restaurant. He saw some leftover rice on the table and began eating it. The shop owner stopped him and said, "If I have it, you can always come here." "Don't eat that. I'll give you a fresh serving, all right? What do you like to eat? I'll make it for you." "I want fish." "You want fish? How about this one?" "Okay. Do you want anything else? Do you have potatoes?" "Here are the potatoes. Sit here and eat, okay? Don't eat other people's leftovers. If there's still food left and you come late, I'll serve you a fresh portion." China's economy continues to decline, and every industry is in a slump. It's already July, time to report sales figures. Ladies, how is everyone's business doing this month? Honestly, I feel like I can't breathe anymore. This morning, just after I opened the store, my husband was already yelling inside, demanding I shut down immediately, saying this shop is just a money pit. From 9 a.m. all the way to 10:30 p.m., I only made 200 yuan in sales. The day before yesterday, I managed 500. Yesterday, absolutely nothing. Not even a single camisole sold. This is a shop I invested hundreds of thousands of yuan into. Since the pandemic, business has just gotten colder and colder each year. Last year, I barely broke even with great effort. This year, I'm seriously in the red. Half of July is already over, and I've only brought in this much. I can't even cover the electricity bill. I definitely won't be able to repay my loan. Business was bad in June, but at least I sold a bit of stock. In July, it's been completely dead. Today, I only made 125 yen. The weather's been scorching hot for days now, and it's been 3 days straight without a single day breaking 600 yuan in sales. If this continues, my loan will certainly be overdue next month. I took out this loan before last Lunar New Year to stock up on winter goods, more than 50,000 yuan in total. It's not a huge sum for some people, but given the current situation, I haven't even managed to earn it back in half a year. Just thinking about this business makes me feel helpless. People might still call me boss out there, but in reality, I'm flat broke. These past 2 days, I've been so worried I can't sleep. The pressure is unbearable. My barbecue shop is about to close down. I just took it over in April. The transfer fee was 50,000 yuan. The rent is 3,200 yuan a month, with 1 month's deposit and 3 months rent upfront, totaling 62,800 yuan. That's all the savings I scraped together over 6 years by tightening every belt imaginable. For many people, tens of thousands of yen might not seem like a lot, but for a mom who's been at home raising a child for 6 years without a single cent of income, it's been incredibly hard. Blogger A Ding said she used to be a manager earning tens of thousands of yuan a month and never imagined there'd come a day she'd have to ask others for money. That's why, against all advice, she stubbornly opened this barbecue shop, only to end up in failure. Today, I received my salary, 4,124 yuan in total. After deductions for social insurance and taking 1.5 days of leave, I'm left with less than 4,200 yuan. I've set aside 2,000 yuan to deposit into my savings account. Of the remaining 2,100 yuan, 1,000 goes toward rent and utilities, and the last 1,000 yuan is for my food expenses. Tonight, I'm rendering pork fat because I've run out of cooking oil at home. Peanut oil is too expensive. A small bottle costs dozens of yuan. Stir-frying vegetables with pork fat still smells great. I'll boil some rice noodles tonight. After work, I bought a bunch of greens for just over 2 yuan. Altogether, tonight's dinner costs less than 3 yuan. I live frugally like this because money is getting harder and harder to earn. Who knows when I might lose my job, so I try to save just in case, so I won't have to borrow money to see a doctor or do something important. Another reason is that I don't want my parents, who are already over 50, to continue doing hard labor. I want to save enough to take them traveling and let them try foods from around the country. My coffee shop is counting down to closure, just 27 days left. I invested 300,000 yuan into it, with 12,000 yuan in rent. Now there are only 3 to 5 customers a day. They once claimed they were going to build the most prosperous commercial center in Nanning, but now it's nothing more than an empty shopping plaza. I didn't open this cafe on a whim. It was a carefully thought-out decision after surveying the commercial districts around Nanning. I didn't choose the location blindly, and I wasn't gambling recklessly. That's why I didn't just sell coffee. I even designed a food menu myself. But the reality has been extremely tough. I've tried many ways to save the cafe, even hiring an agency to help with operations, only to be scammed out of several thousand yuan. I kept making short videos so that people in the neighborhood would know about my little shop. Just yesterday, unexpectedly, 8 or 9 uncles came by, saying they saw my video and knew how hard it is for a young woman to start a business. Those 8 cups of coffee moved me so much that my hands were shaking. Turns out, when you're about to collapse, genuine kindness can fall from the sky. There are 27 days left. I don't know if I'll see the light at the end of the tunnel, but as long as you're still here, I want to try one more time. You're welcome to come for the last cup of coffee in our story. Right now, it's difficult to make money in any industry. What's more worrying is that some people are being driven to extremes just to survive. 2 young women in Wuhan live-streamed themselves selling blood. They said they had no money to eat, so they had to sell blood for cash. Each of them had 5 tubes drawn at Wuhan No. 11 People's Hospital. In recent years, the number of college graduates in China has reached record highs. from 11.58 million in 2023 to 11.87 million in 2024, and an estimated 12.22 million in 2025. That's why many people joke that 2025 will be the most tragic graduation season in history. The documentary Graduation Equals Unemployment, which was once banned online, realistically portrays this exact situation. Ning Shan, a master's graduate from a prestigious 211 university, originally chose civil engineering because China's real estate market was booming at the time. But by the time she graduated in 2022, the property market had already collapsed and civil engineering had entered a deep freeze. When she opened job hunting apps, she discovered that degrees had seriously depreciated. Even basic roles like registration staff or audit assistants now required a master's degree, but the salary was only 5,000 to 6,000 won. She couldn't find a job for a long time. Eating became a problem. In the end, she had to resort to live streaming. She joked to herself, "At least with one day of live streaming, I can earn enough for instant noodles."
In the shadows of Chongqing's glittering skyscrapers, groups of hungry youths quietly rummage through supermarket dumpsters at night. They are not rebels, just starving. An undercover journalist from Hong Kong described the scene starkly. "The poverty here is worse than anything I saw in rural Cambodia. It's not only unemployed workers. The invisible poor are now visible across major cities like Wuhan, where each dawn begins with orders to clear the homeless from train stations." A station worker revealed, "We're not allowed to help, just to push them out of sight. Social media is flooded with heartbreaking posts. We'll do any work for food." A 54-year-old man from Shandong wrote, "No meat in 20 days. I'll clean your toilet for 10 yuan. In cities like Zhengzhou and Xi'an, entire families, grandparents, parents, and children are crammed into cramped apartments without clean water or electricity. Online forums are filled with survival tips: how to cook weeds, how to stretch one bowl of rice for 3 meals. The job market is collapsing with data from recruitment platforms like Boss Zhipin, showing an 80% drop in job listings for sectors like construction and manufacturing. Many recent graduates accept degrading government internships paying just 800 yuan a month if they're paid at all. The gig economy is also crumbling. Delivery workers now sleep in storage boxes to avoid rent. A heartbreaking video from Hangzhou captured a delivery rider sobbing after being fined for eating instant noodles on a curb. Municipal budgets are drying up, shelters are overcrowded, and officials are instructed not to solve the problem, but to hide it. A whistleblower from Nanjing's Civil Affairs Bureau admitted, "We were told to clear the streets, not to help people. Make them invisible. That's the directive." A wave of natural disasters. Tornado wreaks havoc in Zhaoqing. Amid the struggle with poverty and unemployment, natural disasters have dealt further blows. On the afternoon of August 7th, a sudden tornado tore through Jinsheng Industrial Zone in Jinli Town, Zhaoqing, City Guangdong Province, causing significant damage. The ferocious winds ripped off metal roofing sheets, sending them spiraling into the sky alongside countless debris. Several structures from factories to shops were severely damaged, with roofs torn apart and roller shutters completely destroyed. A witness at the scene recounted, "The wind was so powerful that a large advertising sign was ripped away right before my eyes, crashing onto a car. It was terrifying. I've never seen anything like it." Other residents reported iron gates, awnings, and trees being uprooted, creating chaos across the area. The deputy mayor of Jinli Town stated that in addition to factory roofs, several utility poles and traffic signs were also damaged. Businesses have been ordered to inspect their facilities to ensure safety and prevent further collapses or accidents. The Gaoyao District Meteorological Bureau, in collaboration with the Foshan Tornado Research Center, confirmed the tornado occurred around 3:12 p.m. on August 7th and was classified as a weak tornado lasting 2 to 3 minutes. However, authorities warn that such extreme weather events could recur, urging residents to remain vigilant. Damage assessments are ongoing with a detailed report expected in the coming days. Economic crisis and social impacts. The combination of economic collapse and natural disasters like the Zhaoqing tornado exacerbates the hardships faced by the Chinese people. The crumbling job market has pushed millions into poverty, from recent graduates to middle-aged workers. In Guangdong, even basic service jobs are scarce. One worker shared, "I left my hometown in Jiangxi for Guangdong to find work, but after over a month, I don't have a single penny. I can't even afford a bus ticket." Many are forced to return to their hometowns with dozens of buses packed with people leaving Guangdong daily. On social media, stories of desperation are increasingly common. A graduate from a prestigious university shared, "I earned a master's degree, but after 8 months of job hunting, I haven't received a single offer. Now I deliver food to survive." Another described homeless people sleeping under bridges, from elderly women to young girls, while authorities focus on evicting rather than aiding them. China's economy is in free fall, with the Consumer Price Index (CPI) and Producer Price Index (PPI) declining continuously, signaling persistent deflation. Exports to the U.S. dropped 34.5% in May, the steepest fall since the pandemic, while imports fell 3.4%, indicating factories are shutting down due to a lack of raw materials. In this context, the Zhaoqing tornado is not just a natural disaster, but a symbol of a nation grappling with deep cracks, from a collapsing economy to vulnerable infrastructure. While authorities claim a 5.3% economic growth in the first half of the year, the Chinese people are living a harsh reality where hope is dwindling and survival has become the sole objective. Beijing's hidden flood tragedy, destruction, concealment, and a community in ruin. According to multiple residents, torrential rain struck on July 26th, continuing for several hours into the night. Around midnight, a normally shallow stream, no more than ankle deep, suddenly swelled with astonishing force. Within moments, the water depth rose to approximately 2.3 meters, and the width expanded to more than 150 meters. The torrent surged through the town, reaching the height of a 3-story building. Entire houses were swallowed. Vehicles, roads, bridges, and centuries-old trees were swept away in a matter of minutes. Liulimiao, located where the Liuli River and Beihai River converge, is known for its campsites and riverside tourism. With more than 300 guest houses, the area had been bustling with visitors seeking a summer escape. But that night, the town turned into a disaster zone. Many guest houses suffered catastrophic damage. In some cases, the floodwaters tore through entire buildings, leaving nothing but rubble and twisted metal. A villager recounted that Liulimiao has few formal parking areas, forcing most vehicles to be left along the outer ring roads near the riverbanks. When the waters surged, more than 1,000 vehicles were either washed away or buried in mud. In nearby Anjobakun, dozens of cars were left submerged under thick layers of silt. The scale of the loss was overwhelming. Upstream witnesses revealed an even more alarming detail. Several reservoirs had discharged water simultaneously, significantly increasing the flood's destructive power. One villager stated that many residents of Liulimiao were buried by mudslides, and estimated that at least 100 people had died, far more than what official channels have acknowledged. Authorities have sealed off information prohibiting locals from sharing casualty figures. Rescue teams are still searching for missing persons, but the chances of survival grow slimmer with each passing day. Many people have not been found. One resident lamented, and the smell of decay is already heavy in the air. Scenes from the disaster zone are harrowing. Mangled vehicles are strewn across the landscape, many piled atop each other like discarded toys. Some lie half buried in mud, while others rest precariously on collapsed riverbanks. Rescue workers continue to search along the waterways, checking inside vehicles for trapped occupants. One Beijing resident posting under the name Jin Liu Bao said she had spoken to a campsite owner who lost both his mother and child when their car was swept away. Another witness using the screen name Boluo City wrote simply, "Many people were taken by the water. The tragedy was not confined to Liulimiao." In Taishitun, another settlement within the disaster zone, residents reported seeing cars swept down flooded streets with people still inside. A local rescuer explained that on the morning after the floods, search teams focused their efforts along the river following the trail of destruction. "The stench is everywhere," he said, describing the urgent need for large-scale disinfection to prevent disease outbreaks. "It's even stronger inside the villages. Footage from social media shows entire streets in Taishitun under sanitation operations, with workers spraying chemicals to neutralize the smell of decay. Observers say the scale of the operation and the speed at which it was deployed suggest authorities are aware of significant casualties, even if the official death toll remains low. Some online users have remarked that the number of missing people is far higher than what's being reported, while others caution that this is a secret you can't just ask about. Adding to the tension, residents report that conversations about the disaster are being closely monitored. Questions about the real death toll are met with silence or warnings. Yet despite the fear, videos and testimonies continue to emerge, painting a grim picture of what happened that night. The flood was not simply the result of heavy rainfall. Local accounts suggest that upstream reservoir discharges, whether intentional or poorly coordinated, greatly intensified the destruction. In mountainous regions like Huairu, such releases can rapidly transform a rising river into a lethal wall of water. With little warning, entire neighborhoods can be wiped out. Liulimiao's geography made it particularly vulnerable. Positioned at the meeting point of two rivers with its tourism infrastructure built close to the banks, the town had long been at risk during extreme weather. Yet many locals say they were never adequately warned about the danger, nor were there clear evacuation plans. When the water came, it was too late for many to escape. Among the most striking images from the aftermath are those of the cars, thousands of them scattered across mud plains, crumpled against bridge supports, or stacked in heaps. Some are almost unrecognizable, caked in silt and debris. Rescue workers check each one hoping to find survivors, but often recovering only grim evidence of lives lost. The personal stories behind these numbers are heartbreaking. One camper who had come with his family for a weekend getaway saw the floodwaters rising outside his window in the middle of the night. By the time he reached the door, the current was too strong. His wife and child were swept away before his eyes. In another case, a woman trapped in her third-floor apartment watched helplessly as vehicles floated past, some with people still inside pounding on the windows for help. The disaster also exposed long-standing weaknesses in Beijing's emergency preparedness. Residents say communication broke down almost immediately. Power outages washed out roads and collapsed bridges, isolated entire communities. In the crucial first hours, many survivors relied on their own efforts or on local volunteers rather than official rescue teams. By the third day, the focus shifted from rescue to recovery. The smell of decay grew stronger, and the need for large-scale disinfection became urgent. Health officials deployed teams to spray affected areas, particularly in low-lying neighborhoods where mud and debris had collected. But even as cleanup began, many families were still searching for loved ones. Authorities have maintained a tight grip on information, releasing only limited updates. Official statements highlight the scale of property damage, but rarely address the human toll in detail. This has fueled frustration among residents and observers alike. "We deserve to know the truth," one local said. "We are the ones who lost our homes, our cars, and our family members." Despite the restrictions, the story of Liulimiao's flood is spreading through social media, whispered conversations, and the testimonies of those who refuse to stay silent. It is a story not just of nature's power, but of systemic failures, inadequate infrastructure, questionable water management decisions, and a lack of transparency in the face of tragedy. In the end, the July 26th flood will be remembered not only for its physical destruction, but for the questions it left unanswered. How many lives were truly lost? Could the disaster have been prevented, or at least mitigated with better planning and communication? And why, in an age of instant information, must citizens still rely on unofficial channels to learn the fate of their own neighbors? For the survivors of Liulimiao and the surrounding villages, these questions are not abstract. They are as real as the empty homes, the missing cars, and the unclaimed bodies still lying somewhere beneath the mud. Tornado hits Zhaoqing, Guangdong, causing damage to buildings. On the afternoon of August 7th, a tornado struck Jinsheng Industrial Zone, Jinli Town, Gaoyao Zhaoqing City, Guangdong Province, causing significant damage. The powerful winds ripped off metal roofing sheets, sending them swirling into the sky alongside various debris. Several structures, including factories and shops, sustained severe damage with roofs torn apart and roller shutters destroyed. A witness recounted, "The wind was so strong that I saw a large advertising sign get torn away right in front of me, crashing onto a car. It was terrifying. I've never seen anything like it." Other residents reported that items such as iron gates, awnings, and even trees were uprooted, creating chaos in the area. Local authorities promptly deployed teams to clear debris and assess the damage. The deputy mayor of Jinli Town stated that in addition to factory roofs being blown off, some utility poles and traffic signs were also damaged. Businesses in the area have been instructed to inspect their facilities to ensure safety and prevent further accidents or collapses. According to the Gaoyao District Meteorological Bureau, which collaborated with the Foshan Tornado Research Center, the tornado occurred around 3 to 12 p.m. on August 7th and was classified as a weak tornado. Despite its brief duration of 2 to 3 minutes, officials warn that extreme weather events like this could recur, urging residents to stay vigilant. Damage assessments are ongoing, with a detailed report expected in the coming days. There is also the moral cost, harder to measure, but far more corrosive in the long run. Every time a family in Zhengzhou must choose between buying rice and paying electricity, every time a worker in Guangdong sleeps in a storage box to avoid rent, every time a grieving parent in Liulimiao is told to keep silent about their missing child, the bond between the governed and the governing frays a little more. The state's legitimacy, once derived from delivering prosperity and security, now rests on the brittle foundation of narrative control. In the years to come, China will face more storms, more economic shocks, and more public health emergencies. The real test will not be whether the country can build higher flood walls or stronger factory roofs, but whether it can build a system that values truth over propaganda, people over optics, and accountability over control. Without that shift, the disasters will keep coming, and each one will strike a nation less able and less willing to recover, less willing to recover, less willing to recover. In recent days, China has faced a string of natural disasters, with Gansu's Yuzhong County among the hardest hit. Torrential rains triggered flash floods and massive mudslides, devastating 4 townships. Entire villages were leveled, farmland buried, and many residents reported missing. Official figures acknowledged 10 dead, 33 missing, and over 4,000 stranded, but long-standing patterns of disaster cover-ups suggest the true toll could be higher. Survivors describe a night of unrelenting rain-swollen rivers and walls of water sweeping away homes within minutes. Eyewitnesses recount vehicles crushed or twisted beyond recognition, bridges destroyed, and communication power and road links severed. Some families were entirely wiped out, with relatives saying there was nothing left, just bare ground where houses stood. The disaster has rattled Beijing, with top leaders Xi Jinping and Premier Li Qiang making formal statements and calling for rescue efforts. Yet even as Gansu reeled, sudden downpours struck Zhengzhou in Henan, flooding half the city within hours, paralyzing traffic and reviving fears of a repeat of the deadly July 2021 floods. Videos from residents show submerged underpasses, stranded cars, and city streets turned into rivers. Meanwhile, in Beijing's Huairu district, flash floods and mudslides left large areas in ruins, sweeping away campsites, vehicles, and homes. Many tourists and villagers remain unaccounted for. Families have turned to civilian rescue teams to search riverbeds and debris fields for loved ones. Witness accounts describe pitch-black nights with the roar of floodwaters, collapsing walls, and the sound of cars being smashed apart. Survivors speak of losing all crops and arable land, with a heavy stench of decay lingering in affected villages. Despite the ongoing crises, authorities are prioritizing security preparations for the September 3rd military parade. Across Beijing, including Tiananmen Square and Wangfujing roads, are under partial or full traffic control, and shops in major commercial areas have closed early. Officials are recruiting thousands of temporary security guards, many of them retirees, to patrol, monitor, and report suspicious activity. Estimates suggest hundreds of thousands of people across the capital are being mobilized for stability maintenance. Adding to the tense atmosphere, an unusual cloud formation resembling a dragon went viral online, prompting a swift response from authorities. The person who filmed it reported being contacted by officials and warned not to spread rumors. The explanation offered that it was a natural light and cloud effect was met with skepticism online. Today, Beijing's political core is under heavy restrictions, with cyclists and pedestrians along Chang'an Avenue subject to stops and searches. The combination of severe natural disasters, heightened censorship, and intense security measures ahead of a major political event has left the capital shrouded in a climate of fear and control. China's new social insurance rules push small businesses to the brink, driving restaurants to hire retirees and leaving youth jobless. Beijing's latest social insurance regulations, set to take effect on September 1st, are sending shockwaves through China's already fragile economy. The policy mandates that all companies, restaurants, and self-employed businesses must provide full social insurance coverage for their employees, including pensions, medical, unemployment, work injury, and maternity benefits. For many small and medium-sized enterprises, this change could not have come at a worse time. The economy is slowing, consumer spending is down, and business owners are struggling to keep their doors open.
My boss told me that my social insurance payments would be deducted from my salary. Originally, I earned 2,500 yuan a month, but after 1,800 yuan was taken out for social insurance, I was left with only 700 yuan. I work more than 22 days a month, which means I make only about 20 to 30 yuan a day. The reason I have to pay social insurance is that if you want to register as a trainee lawyer, you need to have a record of social insurance contributions. Without paying it, you can't become a trainee lawyer, and without being a trainee lawyer, you can't become a licensed lawyer. I spend 6 yuan every day just on transportation to work. If you add the social insurance deductions, it's like paying 12 yuan a day just to get to the office, and I still have to pay for my own meals. Every day, it feels like I'm paying to work. I'm preparing to resign. My salary is 5,500 yuan, but the boss said that starting September 1st, I'll have to pay social insurance, automatically deducting 1,500 yuan from my wages, leaving me with only 4,000 yuan. With just 4,000, I really can't keep working. I've decided to voluntarily quit at the end of August, go home to lie flat, and take things one step at a time.
Now, with the added weight of mandatory contributions, thousands of shops and restaurants face a stark choice: absorb the extra costs, or shut down. In cities across the country, owners are calculating the numbers and realizing that the math simply does not work. Some, like a bun shop operator in Beijing, have already decided to close once their leases expire, unable to bear the monthly insurance costs for their staff. Online forums and business groups are filled with similar stories. Restaurant owners lamenting that they are finished, unsure how they will navigate the months ahead. The impact is being felt most acutely among the smallest economic players, tiny family-run shops, modest eateries, and sole proprietors who operate with razor-thin margins. Analysts note that for these operators, the new rule is not just a financial burden, but a tipping point that could wipe out entire segments of the service industry. In an attempt to stay afloat, many restaurants are turning to a controversial workaround, replacing younger employees with retirees. Since retirees already receive pensions and are not subject to social insurance contributions, hiring them can eliminate the additional costs. Across provinces such as Zhejiang, job ads are appearing for workers over the age of 50, offering modest wages and part-time shifts. Even multinational chains like McDonald's have joined in openly recruiting older staff. This shift is subtly but profoundly reshaping the labor market. Every retiree hired often means one fewer position for a younger worker. The result is an intensifying youth unemployment crisis, as fresh graduates and young job seekers find themselves pushed out of low to mid-skill roles that once served as stepping stones into the workforce. Without steady employment, many face mounting financial strain. Mortgages, family obligations, and daily expenses remain constant, even as income disappears. Observers warn that this structural change in the workforce could have long-term social consequences. A generation of young people sidelined from the job market, risks falling into economic stagnation, disillusionment, and in some cases extreme responses born of desperation. The economic stress does not only affect individuals, it reverberates through families and communities, weakening social stability. Workers who remain employed are not immune to the pain. Some report that the cost of their social insurance is being deducted directly from their paychecks, drastically reducing their take-home income. For low-wage earners, the cut can be so steep that the job no longer makes financial sense. A number of employees have already decided to quit, preferring to lie flat at home rather than work for what they describe as unsustainable pay. The discontent is spreading beyond blue-collar sectors. Even professionals such as trainee lawyers are finding themselves in situations where their salaries shrink to almost nothing, after deductions leaving them reliant on family support to make ends meet. As the September deadline approaches, the sense of crisis is deepening. What was intended as a policy to strengthen the social safety net is in practice forcing small business owners into survival mode and displacing younger workers from the job market. The fallout is likely to ripple far beyond the restaurant industry, altering the structure of China's workforce and exacerbating social tensions at a time when economic resilience is already under strain. China's factories slash shifts and cut wages as trade. War fears deepen deflation. Despite ongoing negotiations between Washington and Beijing, uncertainty and pessimism surrounding the trade war are prompting many Chinese export manufacturers to scale back operations and reduce wages in order to stay competitive against domestic rivals. Economists warn that this wave of underemployment is worsening China's deflationary pressures and threatens to further drag down economic growth. A Reuters survey of business owners, recruitment agents, and unemployed job seekers paints a consistent picture. Factories across China are cutting production shifts and slashing pay, driven by expectations of higher U.S. tariffs and severe overcapacity. In Foshan, businessman Mike Chai has been forced to divert goods once destined for U.S. customers to Australia, undercutting long-standing relationships there. To keep his cabinetry business afloat, he has shortened workers' shifts, introduced unpaid leave, and is planning a 30% reduction in wage costs. Practices, he says, are now widespread. Even so, these measures only allow his company to break even. Other manufacturers are increasingly relying on temporary labor hiring only when orders come in and releasing workers once demand drops. Dave Fong, who owns 3 factories in southern China, recently laid off 30 full-time employees, replacing them with short-term hires paid by the day or hour, avoiding pension and insurance costs. He attributes the weak market both to falling domestic consumption and the trade war, especially with the United States. The labor market is showing the strain. According to Wuhan-based recruiter Chen Chuyan, temporary wages have fallen from 16 yuan an hour last year to 14 yuan, yet job seekers still queue daily for limited openings. For many of the unemployed, ranging from rural migrant workers to university graduates with degrees in digital marketing, finding a job is difficult, and wages offered are often too low to cover living expenses. Some employers reportedly deduct various fees from pay, such as management housing and cleaning charges, further eroding incomes. Economists note that shrinking work hours and unpaid leave don't show up in official unemployment data, masking the true extent of labor market weakness. Alicia Garcia Herrero, chief Asia-Pacific economist at Natixis, stresses that it is factory workers who bear the brunt of China's cutthroat price competition. Lower wages sap consumer spending power, while unsold inventory forces factories to cut labor costs even further, a vicious cycle that deepens deflation and undermines any recovery momentum. Guangzhou traffic police seize electric bike without ID, leaving owner with no way to seek justice. In the morning of August 11, 2025, an incident in Guangzhou, Fujian province has stirred public outrage. Mr. Xiao, a local resident, was on his way to work riding his electric bike when he stopped at a traffic light on Yanping Avenue in Beijing town. Without warning, several uniformed men appeared, took his keys, and pushed the bike away. When he demanded to see their identification, they refused to present any documents or provide a seizure notice. Speaking the next day, Xiao said the men offered no explanation for what law he had supposedly broken. Without proof of their department or authority, he said it was impossible to tell if they were genuine traffic officers or simply acting like bandits. His attempt to file a police report by calling 110 yielded no response, leaving him unsure of whom he could even lodge a formal complaint against. This incident comes against a broader backdrop of economic decline in China, where local governments facing shrinking revenues have turned increasingly to fines as a source of income. Xiao described how, in recent years, instead of alleviating people's hardships, authorities have intensified enforcement crackdowns that feel more like revenue collection than genuine law enforcement. Electric bikes purchased in the past did not require license plates, but under newer rules, newly bought e-bikes must be registered, and riders are required to hold driving permits. Xiao said officers now routinely stop unlicensed bikes, handing out fines of around 500 yuan each time, only to repeat the process when they encounter the same riders again. He also alleged that traffic police sometimes go directly to electric bike dealerships to inspect vehicles, effectively crippling business for shop owners. In his words, it's just robbery. They say you're in violation if they want you to be. They say you're not if they choose not to. Xiao drew parallels to other recent publicized clashes between citizens and local authorities, warning that incidents like these will only become more frequent as ordinary people, feeling increasingly squeezed and with no way out, are pushed toward open resistance. Evergrande's final countdown. Delisting. Set for August 25th. After 4 turbulent years, China Evergrande Group is reaching the end of its long corporate saga. On the evening of August 12th, the company announced it will be delisted from the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. Its final trading day will be August 22nd, with the official removal taking effect at 9 a.m. on August 25th. The announcement confirmed that Evergrande had failed to meet any of the resumption requirements set by the exchange. Trading in its shares had been suspended for an extended period, and the company was unable to restore activity by the July 28th deadline. Evergrande also stated that it would not seek a review of the delisting decision. The path to this outcome traces back to January 2024, when the Hong Kong High Court issued a liquidation order against the developer, triggering yet another trading halt. Court-appointed liquidators from Alvarez and Marsal, Edward Simon Middleton, and Huang Yongxi took control, initiating asset recovery efforts. While some progress was made in reclaiming resources, the restructuring of Evergrande's offshore debt made no substantial headway. Once a real estate giant built on aggressive leverage, Evergrande had at its peak a market capitalization of $400 billion. Its founder, Xu Jiayin, topped the 2017 Huron Rich List with personal wealth of 290 billion yuan. But the liquidity crisis that erupted in 2021 sent its share price into freefall. By the time trading was halted in January 2024, the stock was worth only HK 16, with a market capitalization of HK 2.152 billion. In March this year, the liquidators expanded their actions by filing lawsuits in the Hong Kong High Court against Xu Jiayin, his ex-wife Ding Yumei, former CEO Xia Haijun, and several affiliated companies. The claims allege breaches of duty in the group's 2018 to 2020 audited financial statements and 2019 to 2021 unaudited interim results, seeking to recover around $6 billion in dividends and compensation. The court has ordered a freeze on roughly $60 billion of their global assets. Evergrande had once sought to diversify far beyond real estate, venturing into football, bottled water, tourism, health, and agriculture. In 2016, it rebranded as China Evergrande Group in an attempt to build a cross-sector empire. However, its plan to list on the mainland A-share market collapsed, and the company became mired in investment disputes and arbitration cases. With projects now halted and creditors in pursuit, the once sprawling conglomerate has crumbled. Back in November 2009, Xu Jiayin rang the opening bell in Hong Kong, full of confidence and ambition. 15 years later, Evergrande is buried under a mountain of debt, its assets in liquidation, and its name erased from the stock market, bringing the so-called universe's largest property developer to a definitive and symbolic end, and symbolic end, and symbolic end.